Chapter 6. A Choice That Changed Everything. Present-day French military archives. Ellie's fingers tightened around the fragile document. The words blurred slightly as she stared at them, her heart hammering in her chest. Captured? Outside Paris, fate unknown. She swallowed hard. He was taken. Theo nodded grimly. But not to a prisoner of war camp. That means... He hesitated, then sighed. That means he was either executed or sent somewhere off the books. Ellie's pulse quickened. But why? He was just a pilot. Theo shook his head. No, if they went through the trouble of erasing him, it means he wasn't just a pilot. Ellie frowned, flipping through the document. Then, what was he? Theo didn't answer right away. Instead, he tapped his fingers against the table, thinking. There was a resistance network operating in Paris around that time. If James was caught helping them, Ellie's breath hitched. They would have marked him as a spy. Theo nodded, which means Celeste was in even more danger than we thought. Because for the briefest moment, she remembered, not as Ellie, as Celeste. It was just a flash, but it was enough. The weight of the decision, the press of a gun against her back, the feel of her own heartbeat as she whispered that one word that changed everything. His name. Ellie gasped, stumbling back from the table. Theo looked up concerned. Ellie. She gripped the edge of the chair, trying to steady herself. What the hell was that? I need air, she whispered, pushing away from the desk. I'll be right back. Before Theo could say anything, she rushed out of the archive, her breath coming fast. It wasn't just a memory, it was real. And now she knew why James Calloway had disappeared. Because of her. 1942, occupied France. The night smelled of rain and burning paper. Celeste stood in a dimly lit interrogation room, her wrists raw from the rope binding them to the chair. Across from her, a Nazi officer paced slowly, his boots clicking against the floor. I'll ask you again, he said, in heavily accented French. The pilot. Where is he? Celeste's jaw clenched. I don't know. The officer sighed, then motioned to the soldier near the door. The man stepped forward and backhanded her across the face. Pain exploded in her skull, but she didn't make a sound. The officer crouched in front of her. I have no interest in hurting you, mademoiselle, but I will find him, and if you do not tell me where he is, I will assume you were working with him. Celeste's breath was ragged. Then you assume wrong. The officer smiled. It was a cold, empty thing. You are brave, but bravery will not save you. He stood up, adjusting his coat. We captured one of your father's men last night. I wonder if I bring him here and put a bullet in his skull, will you still be so brave? Celeste's stomach turned to ice. Or, the officer continued, perhaps we do not need him. Perhaps we already have the only leverage we need. He stepped aside and Celeste's blood ran cold. James! Beaten, bruised, barely able to stand but alive. His blue eyes found hers immediately, dark with pain but defiant. Celeste's breath hitched. No! The officer smirked. Now, I will ask you one more time. He leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. Give me his name. Silence. Her heartbeat roared in his ears. She could lie. She could make up a name, but if they found out, if they suspected, James would be dead by sunrise. She could stay silent, but then they would kill him here in front of her. The officer straightened, sighing. Very well. Calloway. The word left her lips before she could stop it. The moment it did, something inside her shattered. The officer smiled. Good girl. James' eyes widened. Celeste. No. The soldier seized him before he could move. He struggled, but he was too weak. Celeste's entire body trembled. I just signed his death sentence. The officer turned to his men. Take him. No! Celeste lurched forward, but the soldiers restrained her. Please, take me instead. James was shouting her name now, but they were already dragging him away. She fought, she screamed, but the door slammed shut, and just like that, he was gone. Present day, Paris, France. Ellie sat on a bench outside the archives, her hands buried in her hair. I gave him up. The memory had come in pieces, but now it wouldn't leave her. She had spoken his name. She had tried to take it back, but it was too late. James had been captured because of her. Theo sat beside her. You okay? She let out a shaky laugh. No. He hesitated. Ellie, what's going on? She looked at him, really looked at him, and suddenly she wasn't seeing just Theo. She was seeing him. The same eyes, the same furrow of his brow when he was thinking too hard. Her breath caught because she wasn't just remembering James. She was looking at him. Theo frowned. Ellie? Her throat tightened. James Calloway didn't just disappear. He came back.